Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, CoOp NISA, What Does the Future Hold for Suppliers? Hosted by Making Business Matter and presented by Andrew Grant. If at any point you do experience any technical issues, please let me know via the chat facility and I'll do my best to assist you. Before we start, I am going to launch a poll because we'd like to understand your thoughts, and we'll ask you again at the end of the webinar. Please submit your answer. Thank you. Over to you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody out there in internet land. My name's Andrew. Hi there to those of you that I already know, having had a look at the attendees list earlier. And to those I've not met, yes, a very good afternoon. Yeah, welcome to this webinar presented by Making Business Matters, the UK's leading provider of consultancy and training services to you, the supermarket suppliers. So I'm going to spend about 10-15 minutes taking you through my thoughts on the upcoming CoOp and NISA merger stroke takeover. Once I'm finished, Joe will then open the room for questions. Okay, let's get cracking. My background is supermarket buying. I spent 25 years as a supermarket buyer, spent the last 9 years in consultancy, but in the 25 years as a buyer, I've sort of been there, seen it, done it in terms of categories, takeovers and supermarkets. Not worked for NISA or CoOp. I came very close to working for CoOp when they bought the Summerfield supermarkets business 9 years ago now. But I have had dealings with both the CoOp and NISA in the past. Can remember many interesting nights in Scunthorpe, and also obviously the CoOp senior buying management all share the same Tesco DNA as myself. But I am and MBM are independent consultants, so it is important that you just take a quick look at that disclaimer, because the views, thoughts and opinions expressed in this webinar belong solely to MBM and its associates and bear absolutely no representation to any third-party individual or organisation. Okay, that said, let's move on. Let's have a look at the deal. The deal in numbers. So CoOp getting together with NISA. It is a takeover, it's not a merger. CoOp are paying 143 million to NISA shareholders. Probably the more interesting stats is just the size of business that it will now become. And basically, NISA is going to almost double the CoOp's store footprint. The CoOp is going to be the single largest UK convenience player in terms of points of distribution, and turn the CoOp, and this is even before any cost cut or supply deals, into almost a 9 billion sales organisation. Interesting to see that difference in trading intensity. Pretty much the same number of stores, but CoOp managed to get 6 times the sales intensity out of a similar number of stores than NISA. So a bit of an upside there for when CoOp start converting stores into, when CoOp start to convert NISA stores to CoOp format. That figure's probably slightly increased and improved by some of the big Summerfields that are still in CoOp, some of the big ex-Summerfields that are still in the CoOp mix. It's already been voted through. NISA shareholders just pushed the deal over the 75% approval threshold before Christmas. It's now gone to the Competition and Markets Authority, and the deal was expected to be approved by the end of March. Given that pre-Christmas they approved the much bigger Tesco Booker merger, I really cannot see the Competition and Markets Authority turning this takeover down. So it is going to happen, and really it's just the second of 2 or 3 very large dominoes that have toppled in the last 2 or 3 months. If you're not already aware of it, ladies and gentlemen out there, we are in the midst of a seismic restructuring of convenience, wholesale and food service. Tesco Booker, any of you heard my previous webinars, that's a big deal. Tesco and Booker combined will be a £53 billion operation. They are going to be all over food service. CoOp and NISA getting together, plus the supply agreement CoOp have signed with Cost Cutter, as I've already said, makes them a very, very big player in convenience. Palmer and Harvey are no more. And really for me, anybody that can go back as far as me and remember the noughties and the 90s and the noughties, just have a look at some of these names. All of these disappeared and were gobbled up by the now big 5. What is happening in convenience, wholesale and food service is the same thing's going to happen. You're going to end up literally within the next 3 to 5 years with 4 or 5 big players. So it's place your bets time. Who's going to be next? Who's going to merge with whom? Who's going to take over whom? Who's going to marry whom? Be in no doubt, everybody is talking to everybody. Everybody is looking for tie-ups, synergies, common ground, and the banks and the advising houses are rubbing their hands together, looking at potential deals and marriages they can do. So I have no more knowledge than you, but all of these people are in play, and I guess most interestingly, particularly from a supermarket perspective, these 2 people. Tesco have a massive convenience estate, they bought Booker. Sainsbury's have a big convenience estate. Waitrose are in convenience, Marks and Spencer's are in convenience. As for Morrison's, they have both tried with Netto and M Local. But the Americans, Walmart, must be looking at what is happening in the market and whether they need to get into convenience. Equally, Morrison's is coming to the end, if you like, of its current investor cycle. The current management team and investors will be looking to exit in the next 18 months. Probably makes Morrison's a much more saleable proposition if they've got a convenience estate attached. So I know no more probably than most of you, but all those players on that screen now are not going to exist in that format in the next 3 years. So what does CoOp and NISA mean for you, the suppliers? Well, the first thing, it's going to cost CoOp 143 million, as I've already said. They're going to want to get that back. And guess where they're going to want to get it back from? From you, the suppliers. So once the deal goes through, once a plan is put together, be ready for the big, outrageous ask. 143 million on the combined cost price turnover of CoOp and NISA comes to about 2%, just over 2%. So putting my old supermarket buyer head on, expect a 3% ask as a minimum, plus harmonisation of terms, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Beware the accountants. This is a big deal. You know, deals like this don't come around that often. CoOp will want to leverage their newfound scale and buying power with the supplier base. The way they did it when they bought Summerfield, quite a clever way, also used by Ocean and Delhaize when they merged in Belgium and the Netherlands last year. Yeah, the accountants, as soon as the deal's gone through, the two cost price systems will merge and match, and will throw out any cost price discrepancies on like-for-like lines, and they will also work out the benefits of an enlarged business for branded and own label suppliers, and they'll come up with a bill. And what CoOp and CoOp did with the Summerfield estate is you as suppliers weren't allowed to speak to buyers. You had to get through the accountants first. So watch that, makes it much, much harder. The accountants don't have the accountability or the authority to trade on things like extra distribution points, shelf space, new line listings, promotional ends, etc. My personal bet is you will simply be presented with a bill for harmonisation plus terms enhancement, and until you pay that bill, you don't get past the gatekeeper, the accountants, to talk to the buyers and carry on with your night's dancing. Some good news. CoOp is part of, or CoOp is covered by GSCOP as one of the 10 named retailers covered by GSCOP, which means NISA, the minute CoOp take them over, will come under GSCOP, the GSCOP law. So any of you that have fond memories of NISA conferences in far-flung ski resorts across Europe, you won't be expected to dip in your pocket for those anymore, I imagine, because CoOp, whilst they're technically not illegal under GSCOP, they are getting fairly close, depending on whether they are a requested investment or acquired investment. But anyway, if what I've just said in this slide, anything on this slide is completely new to you, you do need to understand GSCOP and how it can help protect you. There is a book that our managing director, Darren Smith, has written, which you can get from Amazon. Should you not want to get the book, do by all means give us a call and we can tell you the implications of GSCOP for you and your business. There is good news. You know, they are going to come after you for investment. It is going to be inevitable. But there is good news in this deal. Good news for those suppliers that have a plan, think ahead and approach the coming few months proactively. I've already said CoOp suppliers will get access to twice as many points of distribution. They're going to have the largest nationwide footprint of any convenience player. Stores in every single postcode in the UK, if not a number of stores in every single postcode. I understand that there will be initially at least 200 NISAs converted to the CoOp format, and we've already seen an average CoOp would seem to trade at up to 6 times the intensity of a NISA. So those conversions are going to drive significant volume for any current CoOp suppliers, and I think the big winners are going to be own label and particularly chilled own label suppliers, given CoOp's strengths in chilled food. So if you're a current CoOp chilled food stroke own label supplier, I think this is a good deal for you. Equally for branded suppliers, you should be able to enjoy better implementation and compliance on things like promotions and listings than maybe you would have got with an independently owned symbol group such as NISA. However, don't sleepwalk into this. CoOp and NISA will come up with an integration plan. You need to be thinking about your own integration plan now ahead of the takeover going through. Don't just leave it to be the NAM's responsibility. You need to put a team on this, and you need to get that team up to speed and trained if they aren't already. Go back through the terms history, go back through the books, do look for one-off deals by previous NAMs that may come back and embarrass, if not bite you, when inevitably CoOp and NISA will discover that terms discrepancy. Do calculate the costs. Calculate the costs if you have to harmonise NISA prices to CoOp or CoOp prices to NISA. But also calculate the benefits. As I said, I think there's a lot of upside in this for a lot of suppliers. So you need to offset the costs with the benefits. And we can help at MBM. We can help you getting trained to face into this upcoming challenge. We can offer you a key account planning and strategy day, neatly encapsulated as a CAP. It's account specific, it is by supplier, so it is closed and confidential. We'll provide you with specific tools to help plan your strategy and approach. And you'll also get top tips and training from an ex-buyer who has been through this process at least a number of times and knows all the tricks and turns. And we do have dates available through the rest of February into March and also April. And I would urge and encourage you to have a good think about whether you are match fit for what's coming up very, very quickly. If you do want any more information on our key account planning and strategy days, do type CAPS into the question window now, along with your email address, and Joe will send you details. Okay, so it is time for action, and I'm almost done, and I've noticed I've gone over my time allocation, so apologies for that. Do work the numbers. Are you a CoOp only supplier? Are you a NISA only supplier? Or do you supply both? Is there any harmonisation exposure if you supply both, whether to CoOp or to NISA? Do dig deep into the history books. You'll be surprised what one-off deals will be hidden in there and could come back and bite you. Do know the value to your business of the newly merged business, both in terms of volume but also future opportunities. CoOp are a very professional, very forward-looking, very well-managed and well-run business. So I think they are going to, be a success story, more than they probably are already. And as I've already said, if you are at all unsure of the way forward, do get some expert support and advice. Okay, questions now, and hand over to Joe to facilitate those.
Thank you, Andrew. As Andrew has just said, there is an opportunity to ask questions. Please use the question box that is available, and please note that any questions that we don't get a chance to answer in this session, Andrew will reply directly by email. During the Q&A session, I will be launching another poll. Andrew, we do have our first question. How long?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
How long would you expect the integration process to take place?
Great question. I think because of the sort of disparate nature of NISA and some of the vocal nature of their previous shareholders, I don't think it'll be as easy as the Tesco Booker integration is going to be. I think it may take longer. It may take longer for CoOp to fully understand and digest what they've got. I would expect if the CMA makes the approval by the end of Feb, they'll certainly kick off the process within 3 months, probably aim to get it done within 6. Obviously, once the CMA approval's done, I think it'll become a lot clearer. I don't think it's going to be sharp, short, and rapid as the Tesco Booker integration plan is.
Thank you. Next question. When do you think CoOp will start to come after the suppliers for cash?
I think that's pretty much the same answer as the previous one. I don't think it's going to be quick. I think they can't do anything until they have CMA approval. So that's beginning of March to start with. I would imagine within 12 weeks of the CMA approving the deal, they will have formulated a plan and started to at least have discussions and approach suppliers, if not actually finalise negotiations.
Thank you, Andrew. We do have our next question. What do you think the impact will be regarding the purchasing of Cost Cutter?
Yeah, I mean, Cost Cutter is obviously a supply arrangement, a contract supply arrangement. Obviously, particularly on like-for-like brands, it does give Co-op more buying power, gives them more volume, more. It'll give them more overrider and other income. Whether they choose to integrate the Cost Cutter volumes into the NISA deal, I'm not so sure, and they may not be able to from a contractual basis. But certainly, if I was Co-op, I would be looking at, particularly with branded suppliers, that combined volume that they now command, and be asking the question, how much more money is out there for us?
Thank you, Andrew. Do you expect them to engage with new suppliers during this period? For example, suppliers not currently trading at head office with either NISA or Co-op?
Great question. Obviously, something this big and well planned could take time out of buyers' hands and make it harder for them to talk to and engage with new suppliers. However, I think initially, as I said, that slide of mine about the gatekeeper, the finance, I think a lot of this may be kept at quite a high level and with finance initially, so it may not divert the buyers from their day-to-day jobs. Just a pure guess, but I would think not short term.
Thank you, Andrew. What do you think the implications will be to NISA's own label suppliers?
I think what will happen, if you think of Tesco with One Stop, Tesco hasn't forced all of its own brands into One Stop. I think Co-op will want to keep, obviously some NISA stores that are in the right location, have the right demographics, etc., they will convert to Co-op, and those will lose NISA own brand. But I think they'll want to keep a large rump of NISA stores trading as a NISA format, and will want to keep NISA own brand. So I don't see that disappearing. Although if they do cherry pick some of the best stores with the biggest volumes, it could have an impact on any NISA own brand supplier.
Thank you, Andrew. Next question. If we supply only one of the parties, how long do you think it will take Co-op to get beyond the dual suppliers to those who are supplying only one?
No, that is a very good question. They obviously will focus first on the dual suppliers. I think because in these days of electronic data exchange, they'll be able to get to sole Co-op or sole NISA suppliers pretty quickly. It'll just be a question of printing out current trading terms, current costs, and then making a calculation. So I don't think there'll be a massive delay in getting to those NISA sole or Co-op sole suppliers. Obviously, the question there is there any benefit if you are a sole supplier? Will there be a bigger volumes for you? For Co-op suppliers, yes, because there'll be 200 plus NISA stores converting. For NISA suppliers, possibly not. You need to ask yourself that question. If you are asked for investment, what are you actually paying for?
Thank you, Andrew. Do you believe buying operations will come together?
I think if it was me, it would make a lot of sense not to be running two head offices and two buying operations. It's a lot of costs running two of those. Co-op have a very efficient and effective buying function in Manchester. Why would you want to keep Scunthorpe going? Pure supposition on my part. I don't want to spook anybody out there that maybe has friends, relatives or whatever working for NISA. but just look at any other takeover. They look to save costs and drive efficiencies. If it was me, I would be thinking, why do I need Manchester? Why do I need Scunthorpe?
Thank you, Andrew. We do have a next question. How much does the cap stay cost?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, cap stays, very simple. It's £1,950 per day. As bigger group sizes obviously is needed or is reasonable, plus VAT and expenses. And we can do the cap stays either at your premises, at a local hotel or conference centre, or we can arrange a location if that suits you better. And what I would say is just divide that 1,950 into the size of business you have with CoOp and or NISA, and you'll see what a absolute phenomenal investment of time and money it will be for you.
Thanks, Andrew. We do have a couple of more minutes, so we'll try and answer ask you as many questions as I can in those 2 minutes. Have you got a view on how the distribution integration will work?
I think I can answer that very quickly. No, I really don't. I'm sorry, I'm not that close to how their distribution setups are run, and honestly wouldn't have a view. If down the track I pick up anything, then obviously I can share it with people.
Thank you, Andrew. Why do you think implementation and store discipline will be better?
Obviously, I mean, you know, NISA are a pretty good symbol operator. They probably have better implementation and compliance than most, certainly independent retailers. But the problem with symbol has always been having an independent owner who quite rightly is running their own business and has their own ideas how to run the business. Once it's taken over by a head office or central office driven structure, you tend to get much higher levels of implementation and compliance.
Thank you. I think this will be the last question. Do you think they will keep NISA's head office or move all buying in-house to CoOp?
So I think I've answered that one. You know, they've just they're spending a lot of money buying NISA. They will be under pressure to find cost savings and efficiency savings as a result of the takeover. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at a head office in Manchester and a head office in Scunthorpe and ask the very pertinent question: do you need them both?
Thank you, Andrew. Like I said before, any questions that we haven't got a chance to answer in this session, Andrew will reply directly via email. Thank you, Andrew. There are no further questions.
Okay, I think Joe's going to do the final questionnaire for you in a second, but it's my time to say goodbye. And hope you enjoyed it. Do get in touch if you need help, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Andrew. If there's anything else that you would like to know more about, please feel free to contact Andrew directly. You can contact him at ag@makingbusinessmatter.co.uk. A follow-up email will be sent with a full recording of this webinar. That now brings us to a close. I'd like to thank you all for attending. Thank you.